Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to the K-12 STEM Outreach webinar. We hold these monthly, and we thank you for spending some time with us this month, just before the holidays. We're kind of squeaking this one in. Colleen Rust was going to join us today to discuss the We Must Go to Them grant, but she's unable to join us, so Janine and Eddie are going to give us a good overview of everything that's going on with that. I'm super excited to learn more about it myself. Next slide.
Sorry, I'm having a moment of technical difficulty here with my slide advancing.
No worries. Hope everyone is doing well with their holiday shopping. I myself am very far behind, so trying to catch up because now we have only 10 days until Christmas and lots of stuff to do. So thank you again. Like I said, our grant update is going to be with Janine and Eddie. We always want to talk about our post-STEM program reports and support needs. Our SAME calendar, put in some STEM news this month, and we have an upcoming CME deadline we want to talk about, and then open discussion and items to consider for future calls. So that's kind of our agenda for the day. Next slide. So we are still looking for an XC position for young professionals. So if you know of anyone, please forward them our way. Josh and I had found some candidates when we were at SBC. So we're hunting those down too to get confirmation and lock kind of those in. So our XC calls are normally the second Wednesday, and our COI calls are the third Wednesday of every month. Next slide. So Janine and Eddie, this is kind of the grant side, so I'll let you guys take it.
So Eddie, you and I have not rehearsed this at all, but do you want to give the background, you know, with these great people who we're seeing here in this slide, kind of like where this all started, and I can pick up with the where we'll go from here.
Sure. So backtracking to the LDP program, one of the components of the LDP program is all the participants have to come up with a project or a group, and they can do group projects. And that's offered us an ability to look at where we have needs and how to fill them. So we had one project looking at K-12 resources on the web page in the past. I believe we've got some outreach projects in the works in the current class. But as part of last year's class, we had Kevin Remley in the middle works for the Indian Health Service and had an interest in doing something with the Native American communities. And both Colleen and TJ also expressed interest in wanting to do something in K-12 STEM outreach. So they came together, formed this group, and out of that, we were able to come up with this design of an outreach strategy for connecting to Native American communities. It's an area that we don't have a lot of involvement in nationally. Some posts have been active, but we felt there was opportunity there to create a presence for SAME in this area, building off of their interests. Their project basically came down to an assessment that if we really want to engage Native American communities, we have to go to them. We can't be seeing them as a one formula type community, given how varied they are and the different issues that they're facing. So the idea came up to create a strategy that posts could use to walk them through how to engage those communities, so that they could then figure out what are the needs and how can SAME help meet those needs. We turned that project at the end of last year into a proposal to the United Engineering Foundation and received funding to support 4 pilot sites currently, and with some matching funds that SAME is potentially going to provide some smaller grants to other posts that weren't part of those pilot sites. So that kind of gets us to the award of getting this grant. It is the first grant that SAME has gotten to do programmatic work. So we're pretty excited about it. And I'll turn it over to Janine to talk about what we're actually going to do with the grant.
Okay. So some of the background that the LDP project came across and some of the statistics is that obviously the American Indian and Alaska Native communities are definitely underserved populations. And in 2014, only 18% of adults age 25 and older in those communities have completed high school. They often lack availability for STEM programs, math, science, etc. Not very many of them at all receive a bachelor's degree. So there's definitely a need within this community for assistance. And what we are proposing in this project is two parts. One part is to have what's called a community dialogue, where you meet with the local community and you listen more than you talk. All too often we go into an underserved community and there's a thing that's called the white knight syndrome, where people think they've got the answer. They know what needs to be done. So they come in, here's the project. We've already got this project, this thing, and they don't listen to what the needs of the community are. What are the communication channels of the community? What might already be existing there? So in our grant proposal, we described going in with the attitude of listening and getting to know the communities. And when we put in the grant proposal, we already had letters of support from pueblos in New Mexico. We already had a letter of support from the Atna Corporation, which is the Native community in Alaska. And we had people from in Florida who work with the Native Americans there. So we already had some letters of support because we were starting to build that community and to start listening to them. So over the next few months, starting in January, the different sites will be setting up at least one meeting, if not more, to find out what the needs of the Native American, Alaska Native community are in terms of how could we help with STEM outreach. And we may find out that they already have some great STEM programs that we could plug ourselves into to help support. Or on the other hand, they may say, this is something that we have a need of. And in one place, it might be career awareness. In another place, it could be that they already have an existing summer STEM camp. And so we could do hands-on activities there. And, you know, this is meant to be a starting place. I will say Eddie and I met with the executive director of the United Engineering Foundation, and they love this program. If this goes well, we have strong indications that we could put in additional grants in future years and, you know, be able to build on this. And I have to say, as somebody coming into SAME from the outside this year, SAME, of all the engineering societies I'm aware of, other than the American Indian Science and Engineering Society, really has connections or can build connections with the American Indian, Alaska Native communities, because even at like the Small Business Conference, we have a lot of Native-owned firms that are exhibiting at SBC. We already have a lot of people who are members of SAME who are members of those communities, and it's just really exciting. One of the things that came out of the LDP project, and they did put together a toolkit with some simple guidance, is that we need to be committed and see the outreach plan to the end. We cannot assume that each community is the same. The needs of the American Indian community in Florida are going to be very different than the needs of the American Indian community in Albuquerque or in Minot, North Dakota, or in Anchorage, Alaska. Another thing that came out in the conversations, the interviews and research that were done, is that leaving the American Indian or Alaska Native community for the first time may lead to high levels of anxiety. So, do the programming within that community as much as possible. It may be that geographically, as the crow flies, something that's happening off of the reservation is actually very close to the reservation, but there's just a mindset that makes it a huge hurdle. So it's better to go to those communities rather than expect that they will come to you. Another thing to keep in mind is that financial hurdles exist in these communities. And so we need to minimize the cost of participation. If for some reason there is something where everybody's in agreement that the best thing is for bringing a busload of kids off of the reservation and maybe taking them onto a base or into a university or something like that, if that's the best thing to do, make sure that the transportation is free and that the meals for that day are going to be free. We do have a dedicated web page for this, so if you want to download the existing toolkit, you can go there and be able to get it. We expect that we're going to expand on the toolkit, that we're going to learn from our experiences in these different sites, and by the way, I will just list them all together. Anchorage, Alaska, Minot, North Dakota, Albuquerque, New Mexico, and Panama City, Florida are the 4 official hosts that are being our starting place for this. And as Eddie mentioned, there may be some other additional branching off on this, but those are the ones that were specifically identified in the grant. So does anybody have any questions? I'm not seeing any questions, so.
I was on mute, sorry.
Okay.
How did we identify who was going to participate in the grant? I sat in on the last call and I noticed a lot of participants, so I just wasn't sure, that process. Obviously, the LDP participants, and then kind of just experts along the way that we found within SAME. I assume everyone is within SAME.
Exactly. So Colleen Rust works for Sundance, which is a Native-owned company, and she works out of Albuquerque. Kevin Remley was at that time working with the Shoshone Bannock tribe up in Idaho. He's now transferred over to the Navajo Nation, and that's going to give us a unique perspective because he's like, the Navajo Nation is like a machine. They are extremely well organized, massive, very different than his experience in working with the Shoshone Bannock. And then TJ is up in North Dakota. He grew up there. He's done projects on different Native American reservations up there. So he had an interest from that perspective. And then in the course of doing the project, they were connected with Shauna Newman, who works for the NDN companies. And she is an SAME member, and she is American Indian herself. And NDN specializes in doing some things like training for organizations like the Red Cross on how to work with American Indian communities. And she also has participated with STEM outreach camps in Native American communities already on her own. So, just the tremendous breadth of experience and background that leadership team has, is a great place for us to start.
And then how long have we been doing meetings?
Eddie, you want to answer that one? Well, I mean, because the LDP was meeting for almost a year, and then as the grant committee, we started meeting once we got the word, started meeting in October.
The regular meetings are just now starting, and then once January hits, we'll have each of the pilot sites breaking off into their own separate timelines that they'll all be managing for the coming year, while the planning team, the implementation team, continues to meet on the administrative side.
So I assume everyone's time is donated, and then the grant money is going to be for travel and expenses directly related to a system.
Correct. For the United Engineering Foundation, they assume that staff time, whatever, is a donation to the cause. So all of the funds go into the direct operation. So there will, we're still finding out. We don't know yet what these specific needs would be, but monies could be used for perhaps transportation, for buying materials that would be used in whatever the program is. The cost of having some of the meetings can be underwritten by the grant. And, we'll divide that up by the per site. Some sites may have a more expensive offering. They might say, we feel our experience is sufficient that we could run a day camp for 3 or 4 days. Another place might opt instead for a one-time career day. So it will.
Okay, that makes sense. I mean, we do have a limited amount of time because they want, I think the next slide has the timeline.
Right.
So basically, a year from today, we should be, reporting everything.
Yeah, a year from today, we will have had to have reported what we did.
Yeah.
Because they want the report by the end of November.
Oh, okay, I was thinking the report was the end of December, so the end of November. Okay, so 11 months basically.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, even though they say it's a calendar year program, they're a little stingy on that. They want all of the reporting and all that finished by the beginning of December.
I feel like the longest lead is going to be in the planning versus the implementation. It's going to be 9 months of planning for, a 1 to 5 day event, basically.
For some, in the case of Florida and Shauna Newman, because she's been working with these organizations already, in a lot of ways, she's already done a lot of her planning and her initial contacts. So she may be able to hit the ground running and doing the programming with kids earlier. For others, they've never met with these communities before. So it is going to be a lot about establishing the relationships.
How many children are in each of the communities?
Pardon? Liza?
How many children are in each of the communities? Have we identified that?
We have not, and that would be part of what would come out of initial meetings with the community dialogue. And one group might opt to work with elementary students. Another group could find themselves working with high school students. So there's going to be a lot of flexibility in the program to best meet the stated needs of the community, but also the ability of the post. Because as we know, some of our posts do lots of outreach. They've got outreach committees. They're well greased. Others may not have as much depth yet. So they're going to be building that as they go through this.
That makes sense. Eddie, I'm sorry, you and I were jumping in at the same time. What was your comment or question?
I was just going to say that some of these posts may try to conduct an outreach event as part of that first planning as they get to know you. But as far as what they are going to program with the grants, that's we kind of want them to have a sense of what the community is asking for prior to them jumping in with any sort of action.
Kind of says it all in the title. We must go to them.
Yes, and we were very purposeful about that because that was the key finding from the project was, this isn't a toolkit we're handing over now. The toolkit is going to be how to engage the community, not what to do with the community. That's for each post to figure out.
So there'll be one post dedicated to each site, or will other posts like close by, like, okay, Panama City, we've got Jacksonville, Tampa, Miami, Space Coast, like there's lots of different, areas of support that they could garner if they needed it.
There are identified anchor posts, but you raise a good point that in certain areas like Panama City, there may be the opportunity to engage multiple posts in the final products, events, whatever comes up. So that is,
we also
should probably make mention of, since none of our We Must Go to Them primary team members are here right now, but we can certainly remind them that they don't have to do it alone.
Right.
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Eddie.
I was just going to say, UEF also kind of hinted to us that they would be open to a round 2 for this. And because of the way we're structuring the year 1 of the toolkit being the how to engage these communities, year 2 could be for sites on actually doing the engaging. So I could see us through this figuring out that such and such a post has a unique access to such and such a community, and they're really able to do something that other posts can't, or reach a community that other posts can't. And so I could see us having more defined posts, local community interactions as part of phase 2. But right now we're really limited by the budget. Other than that, any post could work with any other post using this grant as a motivator. We just may not have funds, but if posts are looking to do their own outreach, we want to be the model.
Yeah, definitely. And another thing that we can consider in phase 2 or maybe phase 3 is introducing what we have learned, our best practices, our how-to other engineering societies that might be interested in working with us. So not just our posts, but taking it, beyond SAME. Okay.
This is Keith Lash. Can I interject for a second?
Sure.
Yeah, up here in New York, I'm retired right now. Up here in New York, I'm working right now on a project with trying to celebrate the 200th anniversary of RPI, New York Big College. I'm working with a gentleman who's a engineer, and he's a teacher at Hudson Valley Community College. He and I have been talking about engineering is fine. As a matter of fact, we've added A to STEM to make it STEAM, but we're also missing a gap with another possibility, that is AEC, and getting more people involved who may want to build rather than design, and try to encourage both these programs to be part of the process. We're working on that now, come up with masons who can help with that construction, maybe skills to demonstrate projects. We're still on the ground floor, and we're trying to get things done, but we were thinking about doing something that would be almost like a geodesic dome made out of some special materials, maybe 12-foot in diameter, and showcase that for a project, and have the builders also showcase their skills. So I'm just throwing it out because it seems like today the contractors, the people who want to work with their hand to blue collar, are really climbing the ladder, and they're doing very well. As a matter of fact, a lot of them want to go on and become owners of their own business. But I'm just throwing it out there. We think the AEC could be part of the, the STEAM plus the C at the end. So I'm just an idea to throw out there. We're trying to do something. Sounds like very similar, but maybe try to do what you're with the SME program. It's my food for thought.
Mm-hmm. I think that.
Is that through a...
I think that as far as this particular program goes, we must go to them. Definitely career awareness might be something that comes out as a need for communities, and skilled trades. We're not looking just to plug people into a engineering university pipeline. The objective is to show how STEM can be practical and applicable within these different communities. And whether that's through high school credentialing or 2-year college, community college, there's many, many, many different ways that this could be applicable.
I guess you got to start with something. I agree with you, but it seems to me like we have a lot of talented people who don't really want the school, higher education, but they really want to locate. And we notice that if you go to some of these places and watch them build cold wet or extreme wet conditions, they have to adjust accordingly. So you have to know a lot about the specifications and a lot about the details too. So we try to do that too, get in front of these BOCES kids and give them a little rundown in AE. And so they're more familiar with that. But then at the same time, when I get in front of audiences with architects and engineers, I try to throw up the C, because it's very important. You can drive by and say, hey, I designed that building, but he could drive by and say, yeah, I built that building.
Yeah.
So just food for thought. That's all I want to do.
Yes.
I know we discussed that in the board of direction meeting also, to focus on engineering and technical vocational professional, I can't think of the word, career choices. So, not just the engineering, but also, the vocational aspects of it as well. So I know that is definitely on the board's attention span.
Okay.
Are you doing this as a post activity or just on your own?
I used to teach a lot. I think 16 years as an adjunct, and I taught both colleges, and I also taught at Hudson Valley Community College for a while. But I'm now looking at doing something with BOCES, and right down the road. I live right down the road here in Saratoga, and it's out of SAME. My post is kind of crumbling. We're trying to get people to come in, but I'm trying to get back at doing something, maybe coming as a part-time lecturer or do some teaching part-time at BOCES and talk about the things we're talking about right now. But,
right. The age group that you're referring to then would be high school or college? No.
Well, I meant you get high school students too that are better suited probably at using their skills in building rather than going for a 4 or 6 year education. But not to say they can't down the road. That's another rung in the ladder they can climb. Once they get their blue collar and get their money coming in, they say, you know what, I want to know more about how to run a business and how to take care of insurance and all that stuff. So I'm going back to school. So I try to encourage them that way. But we're trying to do that. And again, it seems like for our engineers week we have here in February, upstate New York, we've tried to bring a little bit more into not just the PE, you get the credits for the PEs or the CEUs for the architects, but we're trying to do more of the kids coming in and showcase their future cities or math counts and some other things that may be leaning more towards the C. But I don't know. I'm just throwing it out there. I just like today, Mike Rowe, the actor Mike Rowe, is throwing out all kinds of incentives to these kids. Say, hey, be proud of what you're doing, man. You know how to do electrical, you plumbing, whatever it might be. Be proud of what you're doing, and don't sit back and say, I'm a dummy. So, food for thought. I mean, we're trying things, and we haven't got 100% yet, but we're still kind of working on it. I'm hoping to do something with this RPI project.
Okay. Well, definitely keep us posted. It does tie in. You know, we as an organization are very cognizant that there's multiple routes into a productive STEM-related career, which, as I said, be credentialing. It could come through the military. It could come through 2-year college, 4-year college. And all of those are bits and pieces. They don't form one single track. So that outcome exists. And we call this the guided pathways. And we'll probably go into guided pathways in more detail in a future K-12 COI call. I don't want to go too deep into it today. So Liza, you want to pick up?
Yeah, I lost the call there for a second, so I'm back. We're always looking for our post points of contact. So if you have a STEM POC and they're unaware of our call, please let them know. So, you know, our purpose here is to have, you know, them bringing back information to their posts that, you know, we're presenting, and also letting us know what's going on at the post level, you know, so we can replicate that, you know, at other posts. Next slide. We have a STEM outreach section and color on the national calendar. So if your post is holding a STEM outreach event, we can get that on the national calendar. And what would be the procedure for getting that done? Janine, just send an email to you?
They can send an email to me, but and Eddie, this I'm going to listen to what I'm saying, and if I say it wrong, tell me what I'm saying wrong. I believe that there's designated people within the post who can post things to the national calendar. And forgive me for just a moment while I go off to the SAME.
I mean, I just posted your email address.
Okay.
So I'll apologize in advance. But I'll post mine too. And is that true that at the post level they can post on the national calendar? Okay, I didn't realize that.
Yeah, so you log in and then you go to the calendar of events, and I will show people and I am not logged in at the moment, so I can't show all of it, but this is what Liza's talking about in terms of there being different colors for different types of events. So COI meetings appear in one color and social events in another, and there is a designated color now for the for STEM outreach types of things.
Look at all those holiday parties.
So
I can't say for sure who gets permissions or how, but or if it's every member has access, but
it's not that hard to do. It's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to see. Oh, this is just changing the view. So I've probably confused people more than I have helped you on that one.
We'll have to figure out if it's just members, if there's certain people at each post that can post, or if it's everyone. But if you have any issues or you want something, to end up on the calendar, there's 2 email addresses, and we can make that happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that's all I wanted to say. So some STEM news, there's lots of interesting things going on. So this is something that I did some research on. We're adding diversity, equity, and inclusion into, kind of our mission. So Raytheon has established this new partnership with the Thurgood Marshall College Fund and the Society of Hispanic Professional Engineers to accelerate. So sorry. I'm going to pause for a second. Okay, Amazon delivery multiple times a day at this time of year. So I am back. So they have, their goal is very similar to SAME in that, they're trying to grow the AE community, specifically aerospace and defense industry's future talent pipeline. So they have, a whole structure set up. So I thought this was a great, segue into the DEI. Next slide. And then because it's December, holidays, Purdue University has a College of Engineering gift guide. It's really cute. Mm-hmm. I really like this book, Future Engineer. So, if you think about it, a lot of babies, toddlers, like if they don't have an engineer in the family, they don't even know what that is, it's not like a doctor or a lawyer, sometimes it's kind of a more vague career. So this gift guide is really cute. It has all different age levels and limits and everything. And Janine, you were familiar with that?
Yeah, I've looked at this for the past few years. I don't have any kids in this age range, but it's also great to take a look at if you're thinking about outreach events and you're looking for materials and you're looking for good quality materials. So I like it just for that, but also if you ever participate in like a reading day at a school, they will have, like I hadn't heard of the Future Engineer book. I'm familiar with Iggy Peck Architect and Rosie Revere Engineer. So those are a couple other children's books, and I think they've been mentioned in previous years of the Purdue guide. But yeah, it's a nice guide if you're interested in giving quality STEM gifts.
Yeah, and donations, Toys for Tots, or here Metropolitan Ministries, just trying to promote STEM, all the way through. Next slide. The portal for the camp applications is going to open soon. Do you have a date on that, Janine?
Potentially this afternoon or tomorrow. I mean,
there you go. So very soon. So
it's that soon. We're just crossing the T's, dotting the I's, making sure that we've got all of the stuff that we need to have in place. Usually it would have been opened up by last Friday, but darn it, the fact that Eddie's leaving slowed me down a little bit. That's at least I'm going to be my excuse, and I'm sticking to it.
That's going to be the excuse for the next 6 months, Eddie. You won't be forgotten because everyone will be blaming you for anything that's delayed.
I'm anticipating it.
It's not blaming Eddie. It is not blaming Eddie at all. He's been spending hours downloading what he can of his brain into me. It's just, that there's a lot in his brain, and he's done an amazing job for SAME, and picking things up and getting it into my brain so that it's part of my normal thought process is, I'm still, I have to think hard about stuff instead of it just being, oh yeah, I already know that this is coming up.
So how long will the camp applications be open? What is that window?
Camp applications will be open until March 15th. And then what we do from there is that we take all the applications and we try to find people who will sponsor campers. So we send the information out to the post presidents, camp POCs at the different posts so that the post can look at it and say, yeah, we would sponsor this kid. We will sponsor that kid. Some posts sponsor one child, some sponsor up to 5. Some posts sponsor only people who are coming from their geographic area. Some posts are willing to sponsor campers from, wherever they happen to be. So,
So is it just for the service branch camps, or do we also have applications open for the partner camps?
The partner camps have their own applications. I know that we have the connection to the Boy Scout America camp in Atlanta. So that one, their application stuff is live. We don't yet have the live link to the Coast Guard Academy camp. But that will be, once we have their information, we will make it, you can connect to them through us, but they are very separate and distinct programs, and they don't have anything to do with our sponsorships or anything like that.
Okay, and I see we have our Tampa STEM POC, Jose, on the call, and he's working on our camps. I can put you on the spot and ask, are we going to send anybody to any of the engineering and construction camps from our camp from the summer? You might be on mute, Jose.
You would be correct about that.
Ah, there you go. I hear you now.
Here I am. It's a good question. I need to do a little bit more coordination with Molly and the post leadership about that. I'm not sure if we went through that process last year. I think we've done it before.
That might be something great that we can do this year for 1 or 2 or however many kids showed good promise. Yeah. I know we had a great turnout on our camp.
Yes. Yeah, so the local camp, it's definitely something we're going to start working on after the beginning of the year. In that one, I actually did a little bit of outreach at one of our recent meetings, and got a few additional folks interested in participating. So definitely that one's something that we're if it all goes well, we should host again. And then like I said, we'll do some more coordination on the national camp.
And those are all during the summer, Janine?
Yes. The engineering and construction camps, let's see. The Army one is June 12th to the 18th. Navy, June 19th through the 25th. Scott Air Force Base, July 24th through 30th. The Air Force Academy, June 23rd through the 29th. And the Marine Corps camp is June 19th through the 25th.
And the nice thing is now, we know that we can get funds from the foundation. If there's a student that, doesn't have the resources and the post, can't fund that, then we can go to the foundation, either through our COI or through the camp COI, to make that happen.
Yep. Okay.
All right, next slide. slide. Thanks, Jose. So our next TME STEM Corner is due February 15th, which, as we all know, the next few weeks are going to pass by quickly. So that's going to be January. So we need to come up with some ideas for, so the deadline's February, and that would be for, is that for summer? I have to look at what, I have these written down. So if we submit it in February, it ends up going into probably a late spring, early summer edition.
I think March, April.
March, April? Okay.
The next deadline would be April 15th, I think, for
After the February 15th, yeah.
right, for the first summer one.
Okay. So, anybody have any good ideas for that time frame?
I'll make mention of two things. One is the big article, which is what we're brainstorming now, but there's also the opportunity for a post to maybe have a post highlight about a STEM program that they are doing. And that
I'd love to see that. That would be great.
And I mentioned that because I think that sometimes people look at the big article and they're like a little intimidated at the thought of trying to write the big article. But we'd love to hear what the posts are doing. And realistically, if we were to find out that 2 or 3 posts were doing something kind of similar, like doing outreach at shopping malls. And so we could easily put together a STEM Corner article that might highlight how you can do outreach with a shopping mall or some sort of a off-the-wall venue like that. And, you know, it's not as big and intimidating if you think about it being a shared effort with, 2 or 3 authors.
We have a number of different posts on a call today. Jay, with the Portland Post, I see this is your first time on the call. Do you guys have any STEM events that you host out there that you might want to write an article on?
Honestly, I'm not involved much with the local Post.
Okay.
I don't think I've been to a meeting in a while. So I'm not sure. I personally do STEM events with Jacobs, but doesn't involve the Post.
We have done highlights, on corporate STEM events, either on our monthly calls or in the STEM corners. If that's something that we want to talk about, especially our sustaining members, because I know our sustaining members do a lot of STEM outreach. So, that's definitely all applicable material.
An easy option. I'm just thinking about what our streamers do.
That's one of
An easy.
I haven't memorized that date yet.
Yeah. Well, an easy potential exercise could be going through, even if the streamer submissions have not closed yet, going through the submissions and pulling all the references to outreach events and following up with those posts and doing like a not a who's who, but a STEM outreach year in review, and that could be this article every year potentially.
I like that idea.
Some of it is to also get more programmatic value to what posts are reporting to us, because once the streamers get awarded, that's kind of it. So it would be somebody potentially being tasked and working with Jill on reviewing those submissions that designate some sort of outreach, and just logging them. You know, that article could be, hey, here's SAME and STEM outreach in 2021.
Yeah, like you said, that's a good idea.
I just can't find where the streamer page is on our website to look up where we are in that process. But yeah, let's.
So if we find that, can you post that in the chat?
Yeah.
That link. And Liza, between the two of us, let's try to remember to get together with Jill to see what we can pull in terms of reviewing either things going on currently or, you know, for a time block in the past, recent past.
And the other option, a potential idea that would be more on the college outreach ballpark is teasing up whatever we're trying to do at JETSI for student members as a, you know, setting an expectation that we now have a nice working strategy at each of our events on how to engage student members. And it almost puts some burden on us making sure we pull something off. And that one might be a little more forecasting than reporting. But
I really like the idea of, you know, taking it to the post level and seeing what everybody's doing out there.
I know that our posts are doing amazing things, and I think that what they're doing are inspirational. And, you know, people might not realize that by bragging on themselves a little bit or telling us about what they're doing, that they could multiply their impact because it will provide the impetus for another post to do something similar.
I just noticed we have 3 minutes left. So you want to go to, there was maybe one more slide. Yeah. So next month, we're going to focus on the International Day of Education. In February, we're going to talk about the International Day of Women and Girls in Science. And we're open for March. So we'll get back to you with that. And thank you so much, everybody, for joining us. And if anybody has any quick comments or questions, we could take those.
You can also post comments or questions in the chat, and if we don't have time to answer them now, we can get back to you.
That is very true. We're always welcome to those in the chat. So thanks, everybody. I see people leaving, so have a great day. Happy holidays. Be safe.
thanks, y'all. It's great working with you.
Bye.
Thanks, y'all.
Thank you very much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.
Eddie.